Every year, the magical kingdom of Clyrode calls upon hundreds of heroes from different worlds to battle the Dark One and his demon army. Benaza, summoned from Paluma, is among them, but there's a problem: he's just an ordinary merchant. Lacking magic and combat skills, Benaza is stranded in this foreign realm after a mishap prevents his return home. Rejected by the kingdom's king and left to fend for himself in a hostile land, Benaza's prospects seem grim. But what will happen once the failed hero candidate finds himself with super cheat powers once he hits level 2? Without wasting any time, let's dive into the first episode of this anime. Our story starts in Paluma's royal capital, bustling with demi-humans loading cargo. Amidst the haste, a man threatens them, but Benaza arrives, expressing gratitude for their labor and generously compensating them. He insists they deserve fair pay for their toil, disregarding societal divides. His actions bewilder fellow merchants, viewing his egalitarian approach as peculiar in a world where demi-humans are marginalized. Despite their skepticism, Benaza stands by his belief in equality, sharing his earnings without discrimination. As the demi-humans depart, Benaza's peers brand him a hypocrite, contrasting his actions with prevailing prejudices. Undeterred, Benaza aspires for harmony between humans and demi-humans, albeit has made remarks on his solitary stance. Suddenly, an inexplicable sensation grips Benaza, enveloping him in radiant light before vanishing, leaving his maid bewildered. Benaza finds himself transported to Clyrode, greeted as a hero candidate by the kingdom's saint, marking the commencement of his journey in this new realm. The saint urgently informs Benaza of an impending dark army threatening their kingdom, seeking aid from heroes summoned across dimensions. Benaza, asserting his identity as a humble merchant, doubts his heroic status, but the summoners insist on assessing his magical potential. According to lore, summoned heroes are bestowed divine favor, their powers transcending ordinary mortal limits. Placing his hand on the magic crystal ball, Benaza's mundane stats appear, disappointing the onlookers expecting a chosen savior. With Benaza's unremarkable level 1 skills, doubts arise about the summoning ritual's efficacy. Suddenly, a divine revelation alters the narrative, amplifying each skill to an unprecedented 999 points. Realizing Benaza's unexpected prowess, the summoners implore him to safeguard their realm with his newfound immense magic, acknowledging him as the hero their kingdom desperately needs. Benaza pleads with them to send him back to his old world, but his request falls on deaf ears as the people ignore him, leaving him to wander the castle alone, grappling with disbelief at finding himself in another realm. Seeking clarity, he approaches the king, only to learn from his retainer that the gate through which he was summoned has closed, trapping him in this unfamiliar land indefinitely due to insufficient mana power in his world to reopen it. Offered residence in the Lv-1 forest under the condition of secrecy regarding the summoning mishap, Benaza is dismissed as a hero and dispatched to the forest. Along the journey, he attempts to glean insights about this world from the demi-human accompanying him, only to be instructed to remain silent until they reach their destination. Benaza, accustomed to the concept of slavery in his own world, is surprised to learn of the absence of such oppression here, where humans and demi-humans coexist harmoniously. Arriving at the Lv-1 forest, the demi-human presents him with a bottomless bag, a gift from the king intended for Benaza. Benaza is relieved to find the familiar bottomless bag in this new world, its contents providing him with essential items like money and food to sustain him. The demi-human advises him to leave the forest swiftly for his safety, a warning Benaza tucks away despite his lack of knowledge about the kingdom's geography. As he delves into the bag, Benaza discovers it functions just like its counterpart in his world. He examines the bestowed sword for protection, only to be startled by the appearance of slimes. Initially dismissing them as harmless, Benaza is compelled to fend them off when they pose a threat. To his astonishment, Benaza's stats display a level up from 1 to 2, defying what he had been told about the world's level cap. Intrigued by this development, he notices an infinity symbol among his skills, prompting him to activate a newfound ability to communicate with the system. The system enlightens him about the magic spells he has acquired through leveling up, revealing unexpected capabilities waiting to be explored. Benaza is astonished by the multitude of spells he gained simply by defeating the seemingly insignificant slimes. Despite his newfound power, he prioritizes finding a secure haven in the forest for his protection. However, the system alerts him to the forest's contamination with molybdenum, hazardous substances emitted by demons. Curious, Benaza inquires about molybdenum, learning of its harmful effects on humanoid races. Undeterred by the risk, he instructs the system to purify the forest, willing to sacrifice a portion of his magic power for safety. Witnessing the system's formidable purification magic, Benaza is amazed by its potency and his subsequent level up. Meanwhile, within the royal palace, the first princess berates the king for neglecting the summoned hero candidate's well-being, fearing his demise at the hands of the Dark Army. Dismissing Benaza as inconsequential, the king shows no concern. However, a saint's revelation about recent use of the highest holy magic, purification, in the Lv-1 shocks the king, prompting suspicions about the hero's involvement. In the forest, Benaza is amazed to discover he's leveled up without battling any monsters. He speculates that using magic might be the key to leveling up in this world. Curious about his magical reserves, he asks the system to display his remaining magic, and to his astonishment, it's fully restored. The system suggests a shapeshifting spell, anticipating its usefulness. Benaza agrees, and the system transforms him first into a hot girl, then into a man he deems inconspicuous. Delighted with his new ability, he requests teleportation back to the kingdom. After returning, Benaza realizes he can't use the magic to return to his world, prompting him to seek employment at the Adventure Guild. Inside, the guild lady explains the registration process, prompting Benaza to provide a false name, Fleo. She assigns him a badge, crucial for determining an adventurer's rank. Fleo obliges and approaches the quest board to find a suitable task for his rank. To his surprise, he encounters a young girl pleading for an escort to the Lv-1, offering payment as her family resides there. However, the adventurers around dismiss her request, fearing the forest's demon-infested reputation. Taking pity on the girl, Fleo accepts the job, astonishing her with his willingness. To reassure her, Fleo mentions his teleportation spell, sparking disbelief among the onlookers. This revelation makes Fleo realize the spell's significance, reserved for advanced sorcerers, not novices like him. Suddenly, Royal Knight Belarasa and her companions appear, challenging Fleo to prove his claim. They express skepticism, deeming such magic beyond his capabilities. However, Fleo stands by his assertion, prompting Belarasa to demand an explanation. Apologizing for her skepticism, Belarasa listens as the girl reveals the forest's malice has vanished, adding another layer of intrigue to the situation. Just as Fleo is about to reveal his role in purifying the forest, the system warns him against sharing information with demons. The girls, armed and ready, encircle the little girl, who is exposed as a demon using a disguise spell. Belarasa identifies her as Fenris, the younger sibling of Fengarl from the Infernal Four. Recognizing the danger, Belarasa acknowledges their inferiority against such a formidable demon lupine. Fenris unleashes her Malicium attack, incapacitating the girls. Surprisingly, Fleo remains unaffected by the assault. Enraged, Fenris attempts to devour them, but Fleo rescues them with teleportation magic, resolving to confront Fenris alone. With determination, Fleo vows to utilize all his magic spells to combat Fenris and protect the kingdom. Fleo attempts various spells in succession, but Fenris cleverly counters each one. Finally, Fleo employs his gravitational magic, immobilizing Fenris. Seeing an opportunity for victory, Fleo ponders which spell to use next. The system suggests the subjugation spell, which grants control over the target, but Fleo rejects it, deeming it akin to enslavement. As Fenris tries to break free from the gravitational magic with other spells, the system neutralizes her attempts, persistently recommending the subjugation spell. Fleo remains steadfast in his refusal, unwilling to compromise his principles, even in a different world. Eventually, Fenris exhausts her magical abilities and surrenders, acknowledging that a warrior who cannot fight has no purpose. Despite Fenris's plea for mercy, Fleo refuses to take her life, expressing his aversion to violence. Canceling his spell, Fleo emphasizes his belief in sparing those who have surrendered. Fenris, surprised by Fleo's compassion, reveals her true identity as Navi, transforming into her human form. Fleo feels embarrassed when he notices Fenris is naked, so he quickly covers her body. He asks her to promise not to initiate any fights with humans again, offering to release her if she agrees. Remembering he has clothes in his bottomless bag, Fleo intends to dress her, but before he can do so, Fenris faints. Assured by the system that she's merely sleeping due to depleted magic, Fleo is relieved she's safe. Later, he organizes his magic spells while camping in the forest, reflecting on the surprise of guild members discovering his teleportation ability and pondering his own magical prowess. Upon waking in the tent, Fenris observes Fleo outside, astonished by her inability to overcome him despite her magic resistance. Previously regarding humans as weak, she realizes her magic has already replenished. Donning the clothes provided by Fleo, she expresses gratitude for his healing magic during her slumber. Relieved by her recovery, Fleo acknowledges the natural course of her demise had he not spared her. Fenris pledges to abstain from attacking humans henceforth, declaring Fleo her master and offering to repay her debt with her life. Unwilling to enslave her, Fleo declines her offer to serve as a porter, insisting he doesn't need a slave. Fenris requests to remain by his side, but Fleo affirms he doesn't require a servant. Fenris tries to win Fleo over with a cute expression, but Fleo remains steadfast, explaining that her tactic won't sway him. Fenris insists she'd rather die than be rejected, prompting Fleo to relent and agree to let her accompany him. Her joy is evident, and Fleo confides in her that he's not native to this world. He was summoned as a hero candidate but lacks skills to return. Cast aside and unable to enter city, he reveals his true form and expresses uncertainty about his next steps. Despite Fleo's warning that following him will bring suffering, Fenris is resolute, citing Lupin loyalty to masters. She pledges her life and loyalty to him, declaring her intent to stay by his side. As the scene shifts to the hero meeting the king, the latter questions the hero's failure to preserve the army provided to him. The hero deflects blame onto the knights, attributing the defeat to their panic and disarray in the face of magical beasts. Although he claims to have tried his best to save lives, the king remains skeptical, prompting the hero's departure. Inquiring about the hero's battlefield conduct, the king receives a disparaging report from one of the knights, criticizing the hero's lack of heroism and tendency to blame others for his own shortcoming. Following that, we find the hero wandering the corridors, pondering why his abilities haven't improved despite a month of training. He speculates that while his stats might suffice against humans, they're inadequate for facing moderately strong magical beasts. Soon after, a servant named Suya approaches the hero, who promptly apologizes for the delay and suggests they enjoy the castle's provisions. The scene shifts to Fenris and Fleo in the capital, where Fleo emphasizes the need to earn money for survival in this world. He proposes visiting the guild to seek employment and find lodging, a plan to which Fenris readily agrees. While traversing the street, a vendor mistakes Fenris for Fleo's wife. Fleo sees an opportunity in this misperception, suggesting they pose as a couple to avoid suspicion. Fenris is delighted by the idea and expresses her willingness to play along, stating that it's an honor for female Lupins to have a strong husband like him. Fleo reminds her that their relationship will only be a facade, to which Fenris agrees without hesitation. Afterwards, they head to the guild, where Fenris registers as an adventurer under the name Reese. She receives a necklace as identification, finding the method peculiar for managing information. Fleo reveals he also possesses such a necklace, causing Fenris to blush. She explains that in their tribe, there's a marriage ritual involving swallowing a piece of bone from prey they've hunted together, and the matching tags remind her of this tradition. Next, they search for a quest, but the receptionist interrupts with urgent news. A large horde of psycho bears has been spotted heading towards town from the north. The adventurers recognize this as the same herd that decimated the hero's army and hesitate to accept the quest. The receptionist explains there's no rank restriction for this quest, and the bounty for a psycho bear is 10 times the usual amount for this time only. Though tempted by the high reward, Fleo suggests passing on it. Fenris insists that psycho bears are no match for his power, but Fleo doubts his ability to defeat foes even the hero couldn't handle. Fenris proposes to go hunting herself, seeing it as a test of Fleo's true strength, given he had defeated her. The scene transitions to them in the forest where the psycho bears appear, and they spot an empty house there. Fenris mentions the guild told them they can use this house. Fleo suggests using it as a base to search for the psycho bears, but Fenris believes she alone can handle them. Fleo insists he can't let her fight alone and needs to test some spells. Suddenly, they hear a scream and follow it, finding the knights from earlier surrounded by psycho bears. One of them is injured. While Fenris suggests leaving them, Fleo saves them with his thunder spell, defeating all but one, which Fenris takes care of. Grateful, the knights recognize Fleo and the girl's aid, thanking them for saving them. Impressed by Fleo's survival against the monster, they inquire about the girl's identity. Fleo introduces her as Reese's travel companion, disappointing Fenris, who wished to be introduced as his wife. As a psycho bear attempts to attack Fenris from behind, it notices her expression and surrenders, seemingly scared. Fleo believes the psycho bear surrendered because it realized it couldn't win against Fenris. He ponders what to do with it. Fenris suggests making it their subordinate, surprising the knights. She explains that having the bear with them would prove Fleo's strength, as even the hero couldn't defeat one. Fleo agrees, using his action control spell to tame the bear. He decides it's not safe to bring it into town and uses his shapeshift magic to turn it into a cute furry animal. Fenris finds the animal adorable, and they name it Saib. The knights are astounded that they managed to defeat an entire herd of psycho bears and even tame one. Curious about their identity, Bali Rosa asks Fleo for a favor. They return to the house near the forest, where the knights thank them again. Introducing themselves as Bolano, Baluri, Blossom, and Bali Rosa, they explain their predicament. Bali Rosa asks Fleo to teach them how to fight, as they are new among the knights and unable to handle even a single psycho bear. Fleo doubts his ability to teach them, as he himself doesn't fully understand magic spells. Fenris also isn't enthusiastic about the idea. Fleo then clarifies to the knights that although he introduced Reese as his companion earlier, she is actually his wife. He expresses his desire for a quiet life with her. The knights feel it would be impolite to disturb them in that case. However, Fenris is delighted that Fleo referred to her as his wife and assures the knights that Fleo can teach them. As his wife, she knows Fleo wouldn't abandon people in need. Fleo admits he may not be the best teacher but promises to do his utmost if they agree. The knights are pleased with this and express another request. They ask if they can stay in the house for the night, as it's unsafe to sleep outside. Fenris agrees, mentioning they have plenty of rooms and she can share one with her husband, causing Fleo to blush. The scene shifts to the Dark One's castle, where a demon named Ulluminous reports that Fenrir's forces near Lv-1 forest were obliterated by a purification spell not cast by Clyrod's mages, but by a single individual. The Dark One is surprised that one person could wield such power, and orders Ulluminous to capture them at any cost. That evening, Fleo hesitates to bunk with Fenris, considering leaving, but she cautions him that their separation might raise suspicions about their relationship among the others. He ensures they sleep in separate beds but awakens the next morning to find Fenris gazing at him, which surprises him. He feels a twinge of disappointment that he must maintain the pretense of being married to her wherever they go. Fenris interrupts his thoughts to help him change his clothes. Balarosa enters, intending to discuss their training for the day, but the awkwardness of the situation prompts her to hastily exit and apologize. Their nighttime training commences with the girls confronting a mountain boar. Balarosa flees as the beast charges at her. Blossom attempts to intercept the creature, but mistimes her strike, leaving herself vulnerable. Fenris instructs Bolano to use magic to aid their comrade. Bolano casts a defensive spell that shields Blossom from the boar's attack. Bylari is instructed to shoot an arrow at the target, but it doesn't do much damage and just bounces off. The situation worsens when Bylari feels sick because she's used up all her magic power. Her protective spell wears off, leaving them vulnerable to an attack. They scramble as the Mount Boar pursues them, and it's clear to their trainers that bringing them up to the required level will be a real challenge. After their training session, Bylari Filio shows the knights their room, and they are pleased with its quality. Balarosa is concerned about the money spent on the room, but Bylari reveals that they received it as a reward for dealing with the psycho bears. They got the room at a good price as part of this deal, considering they'll be training for a while. He wanted to ensure their comfort. Fenris announces dinner, but their excitement fades when they see the raw meat served. Filio thanks her for the meal but requests that they prefer their meat cooked. She offers to cook it, but Filio decides to handle it this time. Balarosa lends a hand, and together they prepare a variety of dishes suitable for humans. The women are amazed to learn that he didn't rely on magic to cook the food. Fleo is particularly surprised by Balarosa's culinary skills. She admits that she's better at cooking than sword fighting because she hails from a once wealthy family that has since fallen on hard times. They had to learn to cook for themselves since they couldn't afford servants. After tasting the food, they can't stop praising it. At first, Fenris is hesitant to try it, but she's pleasantly surprised by how delicious cooked food can be. The flavors tantalize her taste buds, prompting her to promise that she'll cook a proper meal for them next time. They all eagerly anticipate that, making Fenris realize that she might have spoken too soon, as she doesn't actually know how to cook such meals. After hunting numerous Mount Boars, the duo returns to town. Everyone is amazed by their consistent accomplishments. Fleo begins to realize that their actions have drawn a lot of attention. Fenris asks for permission to attend to some personal matters while the guild staff assess their achievement. The merchant receives a summons to a meeting from a representative of the Adventurers Guild named Lilith. Lilith discusses how Fleo's achievements have spread throughout the town, leading to a request from the state for Fleo to lend his strength to assist the hero. The king has agreed to grant him the title of honorary knight if he accepts the offer. They've never witnessed anyone capable of defeating so many rank magic beasts at once. Lilith expresses reluctance to lose Fleo, but believes that utilizing his talents for the betterment of their world is worth the sacrifice. The representative emphasizes that this is a rare opportunity. Filio, feeling no animosity towards the demons as he hails from another world, declines the offer, surprising Lilith. As he exits the meeting to meet Fenris, he appears disheveled. She wonders if he was attacked by magic beasts, but he reassures her that everything is fine. Internally, Fenris reveals that she attended cooking lessons with a renowned chef, but her attempts to use magic to aid her cooking resulted in failure. She is determined to learn the skill properly after hearing that food is a way to a person's heart. Meanwhile, the ineffective hero hosts a party and learns of Filio's accomplishments from Tsuya. The king seeks to enlist Filio's help in the ongoing battle against the Dark One. The hero is pleased to hear about such a powerful adventure and orders for Filio to be summoned. He plans to appoint Filio as his right-hand man. Despite repeated requests over the past month, Filio declines the offer. In the meantime, they have begun farming near their headquarters, with Blossom taking charge of tilling the land. Their master feels that she is dedicating more effort to farming than to her sword training. Fenris attempts to persuade Bylary to practice shooting at targets other than those on trees. However, Bylary finds it difficult to shoot down the adorable many-eyed birds as they find them too cute. In contrast, the demon remarks on how tender and delicious they appear. Bolano rests near a tree after depleting her magic reserves due to her limited capacity. Fleo attempts to address this issue by offering her a magic ring that enhances her magical power. She tries to wear it on her ring finger, but an ominous warning from Fenris halts her. Everyone's focus shifts when Balarosa calls for Filio's help to fend off a monster attack. Although the demon successfully defeats it, she feels irritated with the knight because she knows that Balarosa should not struggle against a C-rank magic beast. She understands that the fallen noble is seeking her husband's attention, but Balarosa pretends to be unaware of it. Fenris senses something lurking in the bushes, but decides not to act for the time being. It turns out to be Ulaminis observing them. That night, Fenris fulfills her promise by preparing a meal. They are all pleasantly surprised by the proper food she has made. Fleo is curious about when Fenris learned this skill. Fenris explains that she attended cooking lessons secretly every time they went to the guild. Initially, it was challenging because she tried to rely on magic, which she has always used, but learning without it has made her feel stronger in other aspects of life. She eagerly asks Fleo to try the dish she specially made for him. He enjoys it and compliments its delicious taste. Meanwhile, Ulaminis observes, puzzled by Fenris, once feared as the bravest female in the Dark Army, now engaging in domestic activities with humans. Fenris approaches Ulaminis and questions her presence in the area, inviting her in for tea. Ulaminis admits she was just investigating and happened to see Fenris. Fenris proudly reveals that she lives with the humans and introduces Fleo as her husband. Ulaminis is astonished by Fenris's transformation from her days in the Dark Army. What's even more surprising is that Ulaminis cannot use her assessment ability to see Fleo's stats, while she can usually read the Dark One's stats. She changes the topic to discuss how much the area has changed, noting the absence of magic beasts in the Lv-1 forest. Fleo is taken aback, realizing that this implies his purification magic was successful. Ulaminis reacts strongly, spitting out her tea upon hearing this. She is convinced that Fenris knew about Fleo's role in defeating her brother Fenrir and his forces. Since that day, HQ has not received any updates from Fenrir. Fenris interrupts Ulaminis before she can reveal the truth about her brother's fate. Fenris had suspected as much, knowing that only a few humans possess purification magic. Given her brother's lupine warrior status, Fenris believes he would prefer not to be pitied for his defeat. Instead, Fenris attributes his downfall to his own incompetence considering his rank. She explains to Ulaminis that she chose Fleo as her husband because she was impressed by his power. Fleo notices that the knights were eavesdropping. They apologize but express disbelief that they had been living with a high-ranking demon all along. Ulaminis recognizes Fleo as a significant threat to the Dark Army, so she suggests a mock battle to assess his strength, secretly intending to eliminate him during the sparring. Fenris sees through Ulaminis' scheme, but Fleo agrees to the mock battle nonetheless. During the fight, Ulaminis tries to attack Fleo, but he skillfully defends himself and manages to subdue her until she surrenders. The next day, Fenris apologizes for the deception and explains that she didn't want to report the incident to the state authority. Balarosa believes there's no need for that, as they can't betray someone who has aided them, especially if she has sworn not to fight humans again. Their discussion is interrupted when Ulaminis returns with the Legion of Dragons, the elite force of the Dark Army. The Knights are fearful because the Legion of Dragons has decimated entire human armies in the past. Fleo, however, is excited to see a dragon, as he had not encountered them in his own world due to being a merchant. Ulaminis attempts to attack with the Legion, but Fleo swiftly defeats them all with a single lightning spell, causing them to fall like insects sprayed with a powerful insecticide mixed with a hint of flamethrower. Ulaminis is shocked by the defeat and quickly withdraws with her unit. Blossom jokes about throwing her farming tool at them, and Fleo encourages her to do so. He enhances the tool with magic, causing it to bring down one of the dragons. Blossom is surprised to see that she has earned the title of Dragon Slayer. The others request Fleo to do the same for them, but the dragons have already fled, leaving them disappointed. Meanwhile, the Dark One, also known as Lord Gaul, observes the events and decides to take action upon realizing that someone is wielding magic beyond hero level. Back at the homestead, Fleo sets up barriers around the house to alert them if any demons come into their territory. Fenry is happy to hear this and promises to personally take care of Uluminas if she returns. Just thinking about her makes Fenris angry. Fleo tries to calm her down, which makes her notice how considerate he's been, given that she attacked them. He doesn't think he's particularly being nice. The guy recalls the revelation that he took out Fenris' brother and his entire unit with his purification spell. The demon notices the sad look on his face, but he plays it off. Meanwhile, the ladies gather around Blossom, who opens her stats still in disbelief that she managed to attain the Dragon Slayer title. Bilary teases her by uplifting the hoe that took down the dragon. Valorosa coolly excuses herself to go and hunt her daily quota of magic beasts. The others are inspired by her dedication to her training. Blossom understands that it was Fleo that helped her attain the title, so she must now work to be worthy of it. The fallen noblewoman cries when she's alone because she badly wanted the Dragon Slayer title too. What happened to Blossom is the equivalent to a random wanderer earning aristocracy. It is every adventurer's dream to gain a title like Dragon Slayer. She feels like she's behind now. Valorosa is sure that she could have gotten back the noble status that her household lost, and they would have been invited to live in the capital again, just like when her father was a knight. Her cries are interrupted by Lord Gaul pretending to be a simple soldier from the Dark Army. He gives his greetings and explains his wish to see an old friend that lives nearby. Valorosa becomes alert when she confirms that the friend he's referring to is Fenris, realizing he's a demon. With the blade pointed at him, he assures her that he wants no trouble and will take his leave. However, he pleads with the knight to inform Fenris that he would like to chat about the past over some tea soon. Valorosa states her name before asking for his. The Dark One gives the false name, Gozel, which sounds strange to her. Fleo eagerly catches up to her, anxious to confirm if she's hurt. The knight reports that a member of the Dark Army was just with her moments ago and states the name given to her. Fenris quickly figures out that it is a fake name and can't believe that Gaul couldn't even pick a better alias. The merchant reveals that they came rushing over when he got an alert that a demon had entered their territory. As they were getting close, they checked the stats of the visitor, and the title of Dark One was displayed. Valorosa breaks into a cold sweat and quivers at the fact that she just raised her sword against the Dark One. She even drools, thinking about how she's going to get eliminated for her transgressions. The following day, Fenris answers the door and is a little annoyed that Gaul came back. The giant towers over them as Fleo introduces himself. He invites the demon lord inside, and Gaul is surprised by how calm the human is in his presence. Valorosa comes out to hang up the laundry, and is frozen in fear after seeing the Dark One. They go to the common area for tea, but Gaul releases a little of his aura while talking about what they did to Uluminas. Valorosa is almost knocked out in fear that she's been included in this discussion and must sit next to the #1 enemy of humanity. Fenris smugly wants to know if Gaul has come for revenge. At this point, Valorosa is so paralyzed by fear that her back has collapsed. The Dark One does not beat around the bush, so he bluntly asks Fleo to join his army. Fleo instantly declines. Gaul makes it clear that this is a personal invitation. He is sure that King Clyrod wants Fleo's power more than anything, so he's confused as to why he's living in seclusion instead of serving him. The merchant informs the Dark One that he's not going to side with humanity just because he's human. He reveals that he's not from their world, so he doesn't even know why they are fighting this war. Fenris chips in, stating that she has not said anything to her husband because he doesn't want to fight. Gaul doubts that anyone alive knows the true reason they fight. He reveals that the war between humans and demons has persisted for 500 years. This was since the first Dark One's ascent. He came from another world and tried to take over the one that they are currently in. He was accepted by the demons who were getting oppressed by humans. This led to war because the humans rejected him. Fenris is a little frustrated that her ex-boss is talking about a topic she just said that her husband is not interested in. Gaul ignores her and continues, stating that the longer a war drags on, the more hostility it breeds. Personally, he sees no end to this conflict. Over the 12 generations of demon lords, ideologies have shifted, and as the current Dark One, Gaul has no desire to rule the world. However, as the leader of the demons, he cannot allow someone like Fleo, who poses a significant threat to them, to fall into the hands of the humans. Gaul releases an intense aura to intimidate Fleo and convey his message. He transforms into his true form and advises the merchant to join him. Fleo feels like the Dark One is overestimating him and assures Gaul that he has no intention of aligning exclusively with either the humans or demons. Gaul relaxes when he realizes that Fleo will not be easily persuaded. At this point, the girls are listening in on the conversation. Gaul understands why the king couldn't recruit Fleo, and prepares to leave, but he makes it clear that he has not given up. Impressed that Fleo wasn't intimidated by his presence, Gaul is intrigued by Balarosa's resilience. The ladies rush in as soon as he departs to check on Fleo's well-being, but she seems a bit out of it, which is understandable. The next day, she recalls how she went straight to bed after enduring that ordeal. Balarosa comes downstairs in her nightgown and is greeted by Gaul, who has come for breakfast. He compliments Fenris's cooking and she insists he leave once he's finished, assuring him that Fleo will not join. The Dark One invites Balarosa over, but she declines, citing her inappropriate attire. In the following days, Balarosa tries to avoid Gaul and flees whenever he tries to interact with her. She suspects that the Dark One may have developed feelings for her. Meanwhile, a soldier spots Gaul near Fleo and rushes to the capital to report the sighting. The king hastily assumes that Fleo is collaborating with the demons. The first princess, who appears to be the only sensible person in the castle, suggests verifying Fleo's allegiance before taking any aggressive action. She warns that hostility from their side could push Fleo closer to the demons if they're mistaken about his affiliation. However, the king dismisses her valid point. Their discussion is interrupted by the hero, who foolishly demands troops to force Fleo to surrender. Meanwhile, Luminous grows concerned about Gaul's frequent visits to recruit Fleo, suspecting there may be ulterior motives. Some officers within the Dark Army begin to gossip about their leader. Back at the homestead, Fleo works on crafting products from dragon scales to sell in town. He strives for excellence to ensure the success of his business and provide for their needs. Fenris is convinced that if Fleo worked for the hero as the king commanded, he would earn much more money. She wonders if she's the reason he doesn't want to fight the Dark Army. He assures her that's not the case and advises her not to think everything revolves around her. He simply prefers to avoid unnecessary fights. Their conversation is interrupted by the foolish blonde hero, who arrives with an army. He presents Fleo with an ultimatum: join him as a subordinate, aid in the campaign against the Dark One, or be labeled as an informant of the Dark Army, resulting in immediate punishment. Despite protests from others, the hero threatens to declare them all traitors. Seeing no other option and not wanting to endanger Balarosa and her companions, Fleo asks Fenris if she's willing to leave. She agrees, as long as they're together. Balarosa and the rest also express their willingness to follow. Fleo casts a powerful transportation spell, relocating them along with their house and farm to a new location, leaving the army astonished. Thal pays another visit and becomes irritated upon learning that Fleo and the others have evacuated due to the humans' actions. He expresses his frustration with a loud cry and commands the Dark Army to gather and launch a full-scale attack on the magical kingdom of Clyrode to demonstrate the demon's strength. Voluminous eagerly receives the orders to mobilize. The cowardly golden-haired hero retreats with his army. Meanwhile, Fleo and the others find themselves in a forest near the town of Hotau, located west of the royal capital. It's a considerable distance away, making it unlikely for both the hero and the Dark One to locate them. Fenris expresses her joy at being together and suggests they celebrate their relocation with a dinner. This brings an end to our episode 4. If you enjoyed it, then don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing recaps.